Welcome back to another episode of Lock It or Leave It, College Football National Championship Edition. No Aaron, no Jay today, but we have a new special guest that I think you're going to be hearing from more often. I'm going to throw it over to my boy Justin Frayne, let him go ahead and introduce himself.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Justin Frayne, professional ball knower, and just an absolute pleasure to be here, Cam. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Very excited to talk about this national championship matchup.
Yeah, I'm sure you wish the Florida Gators were participating in there, but they're not a very good football team. So we'll just go ahead and move in on to this. Notre Dame, Ohio State. A lot of things to talk about on both sides, but let's start with this. If you had to pick right now, do you think it's an easy game for Ohio State? I mean, obviously the spread follows them, but I mean, Notre Dame is getting a lot of love from the public as well.
It's the national championship, Cam. You can never call it an easy game. I think that 9.5 points is a little bit disrespectful,
A
but
lot of
that
points.
just it's less about how uh, it's more about how good this Ohio State team is. They are the number one defense in the country. They are rocking a unbelievable weapon on wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. They have multiple NFL prospects at O-line. To be honest, they're just stacked all over the field. Um, in my opinion, I believe that this is going to be a closer game than expected, but expect Ohio State to pull it out late in the game.
Well, I am also riding with Ohio State, but I'm glad you mentioned Jeremiah Smith. Let's talk about him for a second. Obviously, a disappointing game against Texas. He was pretty much shut down by that zone defense. On the flip side, though, Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame play cover one at the highest rate in the country. They're one of the more man coverage teams we see in college football. And we saw what happened last time somebody tried to play Jeremiah Smith in man coverage. That being said, if you've been playing what your defense and been successful playing defense for so long, it's going to be tough to just completely switch your game plan. So I'm interested to see what we're going to see from Jeremiah Smith this year or in the national championship versus, obviously a disappointing game versus Texas.
Look, when Jeremiah Smith is in one-on-one coverage, it's almost impossible to cover that man. He is such a weapon, especially when he gets into these one-on-one coverages against cover one. And really, what Notre Dame is going to need to rely on is Xavier Watts, top safety in the NCAA. The dude is a ball hawk, but that you have to be aware of the other weapons on that Ohio State team. You've got guys like um, Abuga. What's his
Emeka Ibuka, yeah.
Emeka Abuka. You
Yep.
have Trayvon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins coming out of the backfield. So there's a lot of weapons for Will Howard to get to, and the Notre Dame secondary is one of the best in the country, but they're going to need to really take away these weapons and get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Let's talk about that Notre Dame offense a little bit. This is a dominant rushing game. I mean, Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Love have been an absolute force on the ground through the playoff game. A lot of it has been on Riley Leonard's legs, but don't discount what Jeremiah Love can do. He may be the best returning running back in college football next season. I'm sure that's up for debate, but he's certainly got his hat in the ring. I mean, Ohio State, if they're going to try to slow down this rushing attack, maybe we're going to see them maybe fire up that blitz a little more than they have been. They've been pretty content to just sit back in that four-man rush because of how dominant that four-man front has been. We saw what Jack Sawyer did in the previous game, and they got a lot of weapons on that defense as well. Caleb Downs is going to make his presence known. What do you think the key is offensively for Notre Dame going forward if they are to pull off this upset?
Pull off the upset, they're going to have to get the ground game going. I mean, averaging 5.9 yards a rush over the season is fantastic. Jeremiah, it's the battle of the Jeremiahs, really. If they can get Jeremiah Love working, they have a real shot at staying in this game. Riley Leonard is a fantastic runner as well as a passer. Reminds me of my boy Tim Tebow. Great dual threat QB. And really, that's their only chance to win this game is they have to get the rock moving. They have to get Jeremiah Love started early and often. They have to avoid Jack Sawyers. If they get into these long third downs, Jack Sawyers is going to have a field day. He's going to eat Riley Leonard alive in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. If they don't get that run game going, there's not going to be an opportunity to air out the ball and play action. And if you can't pass the ball, I don't care how dominant your run game is, you're not going to put up enough points against this Ohio State team. They have too many weapons on the offensive side of the ball. And if they can't get Riley Leonard going through the air, I think it's going to be a tough uphill battle for them. But before we wrap this up, I do want to ask you, do you have any sports bet picks you like? We like, obviously, lock it or leave it is the show. We have some picks we like to lock in and some picks we like to leave out. What would be your number one lock pick of this game?
Look, I just had surgery and I just popped the perk 30. So I don't know if it's me just being affected by the drugs, but I think it's going to be a slow-paced game. I think that this is going to be a heavily defensive-minded game, and I expect the under to be a bona fide lock. I'm not gonna. I know that Ohio State's gonna win this game. Unfortunately, look, the Gators were one of the last teams to beat them in the playoffs. The last time that the playoffs changed, Ohio State was the winner 10 years ago, 2014, over Oregon. But Ohio State will win the game, and it'll be the under, guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, you know how like the public loves to favor the over, so I could definitely see the under being the play here. I'm also not going to tell you, but my play kind of overlaps with your play. I know you mentioned him as well. I'm going Emeka Ibuka under 58 and a half receiving yards in this game, specifically due to what we mentioned earlier. Emeka Ibuka excels against zone coverage. He's not as good against man. So for me, I think it's going to be the Jeremiah Smith show, and that's just what my locks are going to be for this game. Before we wrap up, though, you have anything else you want to say?
I think that it's a very exciting time in college football with this 12-team playoff. It's super exciting to see two powerhouse heavyweights of the college football world battling it out. I wish that the Gators were going to be in there, but it's going to be a great game to watch. Must watch TV for sure.
I agree. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We're gonna keep being consistent now that TikTok looks like it may be going under. So keep an eye out for YouTube videos. And if you did come from TikTok, just know we appreciate you. Until next time.